Alex,
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome you to Sarasota.
You have my wonderful collection of sartorial elegance.
Oh dear. Paula, could you come and join Alex? Just for a few seconds.
This is why you catch. I'm very delighted.
What's your sartorial elegance?
All this.
Oh, you can rubbish on the bed.
Paula, you just come for a little while. Just I'll take a few pictures of you. A few seconds. You know me. You just
We need some
pretend.
of you as well.
Yes,
Don't
yes.
swing it around too fast, or
No.
you'll be giddy when you
Yeah, you're right. Okay. It's
Is it on?
Do I press it?
It's recording actually. Okay. Alex, can I help you to take out some of the stuff? She's
Honestly,
got
what
so
on earth
many
have I got
wonderful
all
things.
this?
Look at her.
What have I got all this for?
What are you going to
And
wear
I'm supposed
all
to be
this?
going to buy myself some new things as well.
Oh, look at this lovely. This is she had this hat before. I remember this hat.
Oh yes, that's from Nimbin. This comes from the hippie capital of the world
Really?
Yeah.
in New South Wales.
Really?
Oh, really?
Oh,
It's the hippie capital of the world.
Oh, this
They
is
went to
better
the
not having
60s
the lights
And they
behind.
never left. And they've all got no hair and pigtails at the back, and they
Oh,
go
really?
around in camper vans.
That's exactly what it looks like, yes.
Have you been there before?
No,
Thank you very
I mean that
Okay,
sort
that's
of a-
good.
Yes.
That's good, Paula.
But
Thank you very much.
I mean, I'm not
Very
trying
nice
to be a
stuff.
hippie.
Where is
It's getting
It's
expensive.
Sorry.
Expensive is one of the Yeah, so that's another the danger, what they call and now
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you.
Lo del agua que tiene Bob.
Just let me know how the temperature is in the back here, because I don't feel it up front here like it is back here. So if it gets a little too cool for you, let me know, and I'll turn on the heat.
Hollywood calling. Get you all in. You can say what you want. You can say what you want. Say something.
We were just discussing that you were
Come here, you have something on your hair. Aquí. Una viruta. Wait.
The latecomer.
It's a special friend.
You have to read between lines.
No, I have to tell all of you, I hate you. Nobody told me.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know.
I didn't reactions from everybody.
I didn't know you're.
I'm
glad you didn't record that story.
I should.
I congratulate Ellen when I knew they were very hot in Rome.
Yeah.
Me too.
Are you going out on the street?
I said congratulations to her. No, she doesn't.
Keep going, Ellen. This is
Wait a minute.
County.
In Montgomery County, and he was a professor of economics and educational leadership at the University of Maryland. And we were seeing each other. And on March 27th, 1973, he called me at work and said, I have to see you today.
A day that will live in infamy. Right, sounds like it.
And I said, well, I can't see you. I can't
Infamy.
I can't
Infamy.
see you
Famous.
because I'm going to a meeting. And he says, well, how about late afternoon after you finish work? And I said, fine. So we met in Langley Park. Do you know where Langley Park is? Not too far from my house now.
the three of us. You know, we all went there.
So we met, and he told me that we were breaking up.
Oh,
Oh.
goodness.
No, it's terrible, the story.
To run.
Bad news, right? You're crying.
And he offered no reason.
Oh,
No reason.
oh, gee.
Did you ask?
Well, in a sense, yes.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it that way, but.
Yeah.
So, that night, something very important happened in my life. I went from a bad afternoon, from a very bad afternoon, to something that night that has influenced my whole life. Well, both of those things influenced my life.
Yeah.
But that night, I was picked up by a sorority person, and I went to the Maryland Beta Alpha
Yeah.
Delta Kappa meeting, And that's when they initiated me as a member
Right.
of Alpha Delta Kappa. So I have been a member for 37 years, since March,
that day.
that same day.
Wow.
That's how I know the date
Yeah.
broke up. I never wrote it down.
Right.
But you see, the sorority records when you're initiated.
Right. So you looked it up.
I'm recording your every
March
movement,
27th,
your every
1970.
reaction.
At 8 o'clock that night,
Wow.
I became a member of a sorority that has influenced my whole life.
What kind of shape were you in?
Good.
Were you just to go
All I could see is your
I
mouth.
always get myself under control, on with my life.
Yeah.
And Memorial Day weekend came up the week before, and I went to Jamaica. And I came back from Jamaica, and on Tuesday night, the day after Memorial Day, which is a holiday,
In May.
in May, I went to a retirement party for a principal of one of the schools. And it was a big party, and it was a cocktail hour, and it had been the holiday weekend. And these two women who had studied at the university but worked in Montgomery County came up to me, and they knew the principal who was retiring, and they're chatting, and one of them said to me, "Oh, you know the big news at the university this weekend, don't you?" I said, "No." "Oh, Dr. McClune got married."
Yes, Kim. Is he here?
Yes, he's in the bedroom.
So
a naughty boy.
he married 2 months after.
Oh, did he know her already? Is that
Oh, of course, she
Yeah,
was a
so-
professor in the
okay?
College of Education.
never said anything to her.
No, he never said,
No.
no.
She wanted us to go be
Get him out here. These two
He's
men out here.
whipping. He's whipping.
And so, I, University of Maryland Chapel,
Wow.
on the day before my birthday, May 24th, how dare him,
I know, really.
1973,
We need to speak to this man.
to Dr.
on, come on.
Kathy Hamershek, who was exactly his
I'm
age.
doing a proper
She had
video.
never been married, she was from Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
So it was a later marriage for both of them, 35.
Don't get me,
44,
I'll be
44. They were almost
Okay,
44.
stop.
Yeah.
Both time, first time marriages.
Yes. So they went off and led their lives together.
But he had known her before.
Before what?
Before.
Did you go to the same parish? Were you?
At the university.
No, I was working in the school system.
In the school, and he another, in another.
And he was, no, and he was a professor at the university.
Ah, the university. Wow.
And then I went to work for the federal government, okay? I never saw him after that. And then, in March 2006,
Don't get
my
she's already
mother
gotten me.
died in Massachusetts. And it was a very, Jamie was there, and Peter, and it was a very.
So you can
You're
socialize.
gonna get one better than Ellen.
Nora, what are you?
You're not eating. And we can bring you your pizza later, if you don't have pizza, we can bring you.
Okay, I've got a piece there, that's lovely.
And what kind of,
My wine glass.
okay, find your wine glass.
You're being recorded for posterity right here. 10 years from now, you will see this video.
No, my back was just
Killing you?
killing me. I had, Alex had paracetamol.
Put out more pizza. People might see another kind. Okay. There's vegetarian pizza here too.
I know, it's just like milk, but it's like.
Not fair.
Don't go together at all. It's just a layer of water. No, they I wear them all the time. I said,
You should have gone in front of that thing. With the colors. With my colors. Selby Garden.
before we leave.
Yeah, you should.
I don't know how the food is that good, but the place is hot.
Nora? It is a very good idea. You know, we should write these stories down. I'm glad you're reminding me.
Yes,
You know, it's so
funny,
It's so Jamie is the funniest of the lot, honestly. I know.
I told you when I met
Jamie,
Armin,
yeah?
the way it was.
Yeah, I've got it.
When I met
At some point, I need you to repeat that story that you told us in the car. That is so really good about your mother.
I went to England. I will repeat it, but not on film.
Oh, but it's all totally for I want you to repeat it on I'm filming you. I'm filming you.
And he had free time, but he couldn't drive because he had hepatitis. And so he decided to take this bus to Thomas Cook. And I did too.
Those are orchids. Now, I don't know what kind, because they're not in bloom at this time of year, but they will eventually come into bloom. Those are hardy orchids. In other words, they can survive in the climate here. But most of our real exotic orchids, when you think of orchids, you know, the corsage orchid, those are mostly in our display house, which we'll get to later.
And that would be the tip of the greenhouse.
The display house, as we call it, is humidity controlled and also temperature controlled between 60 and 90 year round. Now outside, very beautiful leaves. This plant right here is an aroid. It's a member of the aroid family. It has these unusual flowers. See how they have the flowers white, spadix, and the flowers come out on the spadix. It's related to scarlet cabbage. If anybody comes from up north.
When it says
No, on the top, press the little button. That's the big button. The little button, and you'll stand up. And once these women finish, you'll take a picture. Perfect,
Thank you.
You won't go head to toe with
Ellen,
these.
I have to take you giving instructions.
God, Cheryl.
Sorry. Yes, sir. 10 years from now, you all will thank me for this.
No, we won't.
Yes, we will.
Cheryl has you working. All right, thank you. Yeah, they're here somewhere there. That's good, Cheryl got on the motivational speaking circuit. I thought that was my circuit, now you're on the circuit.
You've been dethroned.
And then what she did was, she told me about the conferences she was speaking at, and she shared with myself and maybe some of you some of the thoughts that she was sharing with women across North America, and perhaps other parts of the world too. Yeah. And so I thought it would be a real privilege for all of us, husbands, classmates, guests, to listen to Cheryl's thoughts. Much of her story you know already, but isn't it wonderful to hear it face to face? We've lived part of it with you. Part of it we haven't lived with you. But in toto, you are here to share all of it with us. So just relax, there's water, there's, I hope you're comfortable, napkins, yes, oh boy. And just share it.
Cheryl Morganza.
Our lives, that we must draw our strengths to live and our reasons for living. These words spoken by Simone de Beauvoir are as pertinent now as when she quoted them in the 1940s. And I'm going to use them as a springboard to share with you the long curve that has brought me to this point in my life. I was born in Bombay, India, where my mother's family lived, but I grew up in Pakistan. The name Braganza is Portuguese because our ancestors were from Goa. Goa was occupied by the Portuguese for 400 years. We were originally Hindus, but our names and our religion were imposed on us by Portuguese conquerors. And the way they did this was a Portuguese priest with the name Bragança would come into our village and he would mass convert everyone and bless us and say, you are now converted to Catholicism and your name will be my name. So we have Braganza village, Lobo village, Fernandez village. That is the origin of our names. So if I go to Australia and I say my name is Braganza, another Goan with Braganza may be related to me. Me to extremes of those who were rich enough, affluent enough, who came to the hotel, and those who had to beg right outside the hotel gates. When I was 6, I remember an old woman who would beg on the road right outside the hotel and smile at me on my way to school. I used to wonder, how does this woman who had absolutely nothing, how was she able to smile? Then one day, she lay there all crumpled up. People were gathered around her and were staring. I stared as well. She was dead. No one picked her up for a long, long time. And the smile I had got used to on my way to school was gone forever. I grew up Roman Catholic in a Muslim country. There was a mosque right outside our door, and the plaintive call to prayer of the mullah 3 times a day indelibly marked me. It was like a haunting lament that resonated in my young musical mind. Growing up in Pakistan, I was shy and very reserved in front of my Muslim friends. I don't remember ever meeting a Muslim boy. And even though I had a brother, I never got to meet his friends. They were kept away. I attended a convent school run by Belgian nuns, not the JNM. Then later, a women's college run by American missionaries. In school in Pakistan, I was never ever asked for my opinion on anything. Never. We learned the textbooks by heart. And the closer we got to the text, the higher the marks. Home was not that different. No one asked for my opinion. I just obeyed. I kept close to the text. Respect and family values were so important that even if I had different ideas on anything, I remained silent. My mother, despite the social constraints imposed on her as a woman in Pakistan, made a special effort to encourage me to appreciate the arts. With her beside me, I learned to play the piano. I remember when I was 14 years old, a professor from the Juilliard School of Music came to Lahore, and I auditioned for him. I remember playing a nocturne in C sharp by Chopin. That was it. I played, and I never heard anything back. 6 months later, my piano teacher mentioned, just in passing, "Oh, by the way, you did receive the scholarship. You were offered the scholarship to New York, but your parents said no, and they had chosen not to tell me." In those days, thinking back, in those days, America for them was fast cars, booze, Hollywood, and sex. So I can see why they did this. 1 year later, Roman Catholic nuns with whom I studied suggested a year of language study. Where else? In Rome. This time my parents raised no objection because I would be closely supervised by nuns. Much to my dismay, all you young women I met in Rome questioned everything. When I was asked a question, I became dumbfounded. I really didn't know what to say because up to then, I didn't have an opinion on anything. Textbooks and elders had spoken for me. To show you how narrow-minded I was, when I saw my young American friends drinking wine, this is true, I was so shocked that I would quietly slip into the Stella Viae chapel and I would pray for them. Yes, true. Yes.
Thank you for all the prayers.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sure that's why you turned out to be the fine woman you are. I thought back to the way traditional South Asian society regarded daughters. In a general sense, we were considered burdens to families.
What was that?
Translate bird.
With a cardigan.
A heavy load.
Heavy load.
A common expression among parents of daughters was, "We are raising flowers for someone else's garden." Even though within certain boundaries. Testing those boundaries led to unexpected results. It was a confusing time for me. At the end of the year in Rome, I announced to my parents that I wanted to become a nun. Based on their previous responses, they acted quite irrationally. They enrolled me in Trinity College of Music, located in the heart of London in the swinging 60s.
Anything but the convent.
I remained shy and awkward in front of my new friends who knew so much more about Western classical music than I did. I admired their bluntness and that they felt so comfortable about speaking their mind. And I wanted so much to be like them, but I couldn't. I did not dare. I was afraid of being ridiculed, of being laughed at. So instead, I turned inward and I started to write and to paint. I retreated in silent moments into another world. Anton Chekhov wrote, "If you want to work on your art, first work on yourself." That's very easily said, Comrade Chekhov, but what if you didn't have a self to express? In August of 1966, when the Empress of Canada steamship docked at the port of Montreal, I was on it, traveling alone. I remember the scene vividly. Hundreds of people hanging over the edge of the ship, waving into the waiting crowd on the pier. I felt like a pilgrim with Dvořák's New World Symphony spinning in my head. I stayed in a girls' hostel run by nuns. In the cafeteria, I would meet other women arriving from countries I'd never heard of, embarking on similar journeys of discovery. While we sat and shared stories, I would make pencil sketches and pastel sketches of their faces, which I still have, by the way. And Montreal was nirvana. I loved the fertile environment, everything about the city, the streets, Mont Royal, the French signs, the way the colors changed with the seasons, and especially seeing the astonishment when I spoke in French. Thank God those pedagogy classes in Rome worked. I understood then that language was and is such a powerful key to dialogue and understanding. Because for me, it opened the doors to another culture, the French Canadians. When the Twin Towers crashed in 2001, I began to step on memory mines. You know these pockets of memory that suddenly explode? That explode in all of us. In September of that year, the Montreal Gazette published an article I wrote about a racist incident that my family actually had experienced 20 years ago in the suburbs of Montreal in 1970, where the word Paki in big letters was burnt onto our front lawn. Now, when that happened and I saw the word Paki, I was a young mother. I didn't know what Paki meant. And when the men from the city were taking off the word Paki, I asked them, what are you doing? They said, well, look. I said, but why? What's wrong with that? He said, no, madam, that's a bad word. Go inside, we'll take care of it. The most frightening part of that experience was that none of my neighbors, no one around, came forward to even acknowledge that this had happened. It's what the experience did to me inside, the feelings of inadequacy that arose, and the fear that I had for my 3 sons. My self-esteem was at an all-time low. A policeman who had come to our house at the time, he saw that I was so agitated and wanted to move out of the area. He said to me, "You have a right to live here like everyone else." And I looked at him stunned. No one had ever said that to me before. But those 10 simple words that he had said kept me strong, kept me hopeful, and kept me going. I took a course in assertiveness training for women, where I felt the comfort and support of other women. We learned the antidote to shame. The moderator made us write down our strengths. I wrote down my P's: piano, poetry, and painting. There was a rumbling deep inside me. That young girl in Pakistan who didn't know how to speak up then, now galvanized herself to speak out and speak up. Quietly though, through my writing, through music, through poetry, and especially through my art. Because art for me does not come from the mind, but comes from the places where we dare to dream. It simmers in expansive oceans of our souls. It sprinkles moonbeams on our shadows. It lights up dark, dark corners of our world. It celebrates, it heals, it renews. For me, it's magic. And I believe the purpose of art is to bring us all together in a human way. Whatever art we artists make, whatever strained melodies musicians dream up, what jumbling of words we writers scribble, they all contain our knowledge of the world, which in turn is transformed by that which is deep within us. So, when I read about women, from the love that moves us to the heartache that brings us to our knees, I'm able to stir all these experiences with my own and create something new that gets added to the universe. easy choice anywhere in the world, just like it wasn't for me, an Indian Catholic woman in Canada. Like many women, my contribution to the household was to cook, to clean, and to take care of my children. While I knew these were important tasks, I did not see them as the sum total of who I was. And it was only when I was confident enough to leave my marriage after 23 years that I began to recognize I had greater potential. That being put down, devalued, and undermined has no place in any relationship. That I could still love my children, but also value the woman I was. That even though I put myself at great risk of being ostracized, as women do even today, I could rise above it all. Divorce turned into a life-changing event for me. I was able to strengthen parts of me that I had forgotten existed. I was able to share with other women in similar situations, able to branch out and do the things I had always longed for, able to become the woman I really am. I remember Andre, my oldest son, saying to me many years later, "Mom, there is so much about you that's different. This is not the mother I knew. I don't know how to explain it. You are a different woman." Yes, we women, we hide so much under mantles of lace, under saris of silk, under burqas, under high heels, under Thanksgiving turkeys, under apple pies and strawberry tarts. We hide until we no longer can. And I married a Brahmin. I belong to the caste below. Even though the caste system is legally banned in India, centuries of tradition do not and cannot disappear overnight. As you know, right here in America, your tangled history of slavery, as Michelle Obama refers to it, is not erased that easily. But the inherent danger is when people begin to feel superior and feel inferior because of the box they're in. I believe we can all take steps to change this and make it a more humane, enlightened society where everyone is treated with dignity and compassion. One summer evening, I was walking down Sherbrooke Street in Montreal when I was handed a pamphlet by a woman who was promoting a benefit supper for the women in Afghanistan. She was a white woman, had never been to Afghanistan, and I asked her, why? Why would you do something like this? And she looked at me straight in the eye and said, "Why not?" Well, those words were enough to get me involved with the Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. They used my images on a 2008 calendar of paintings, which I believe many of you have. I thank you now publicly on behalf of all the Afghan women you unknowingly have touched. Their struggle is ongoing as we speak. Many of us live as if we're going to live forever. I know I did. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But 5 years ago, 2 events took place in my life that reminded me that my life was indeed finite. In May of 2004, I lost my mother, something many of us can relate to. After which I spent 5 months staring blankly into a dark well, wondering why she had abandoned me. And then a few months later, on my 60th birthday, I was diagnosed with cancer of the bone marrow, multiple myeloma, which crushed my spine. I couldn't walk, and I was in hospital. I spent 5 months in hospital undergoing different treatments, none of which worked. I heard whispers in hospital that I wasn't expected to survive. An art therapist was brought in, and she made me paint. One day, Miguel and a friend rolled in a portable piano into my hospital room. They carried me to the piano and said, "Mom, play." I couldn't move my fingers, let alone play. But I forced myself to pull out a few notes. And then something strange happened. Tears started rolling down my face. And the nurses were smiling, and my sons were happy, and said, "Look, this is the first time my mother is showing any signs of emotion." Because for the past 5 months, I showed nothing. I had a blank face. I was so sedated with the chemo and everything else. So that was a bit like the turning point for me. At home during the next year, they gave me more chemo, thalidomide, antidepressants. I was down to 70, 75 pounds. One day, and this is a story that really I've never told, but I will tell you. One day, on a very cold and blustery November afternoon, I was alone in the house. I looked at my ravaged body, and I decided that there was no use for me to keep living. So I could hardly walk, but I crawled upstairs to my room, and I had these long Indian scarves that I had bought. I tied them together. I made a noose, put it around my neck, and I tried to throw it over the shower rod. And I thought, oh, I'd pull it, that would be end of me, that would be so easy. However, because of my back, I couldn't get the scarf to go over. I ended up crumpling down on the floor in tears, and that's where the nurse found me. You know what really got to me in all this was when the boys found out. Miguel came to me and said, "You know, Mom, if you had done that, do you know what I would have done? I would have gone out and done the same thing." Now, hearing that from Miguel, just that one line has made me absolutely determined that this would never happen again in my entire life. That I couldn't in 1 second of my life, choose to disappear just because of what I felt. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said, "It is only when we truly know and understand that we have a limited time on earth and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we begin to live each day to the fullest, as if it was the only one we had." For me, suddenly being forced to face my own mortality brought a new realization. I wanted to find out why I had been given this chance. I was convinced there must have been a very good reasons. And the reasons are being manifested really every day. Stars fall into my life. does inspire. Watching women in tears after I spoke in New York a few months ago was overwhelming. To hear one woman say, "Your story grabbed my heart where it hurts. My life is going to change because of you, Cheryl," is very powerful and humbling stuff. So now I'm doing all kinds of things. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm taking jazz piano lessons at McGill University twice a week. It's very difficult because changing from classical to jazz is not easy. I play the piano in a home downtown for destitute women. I'm on the board of directors of the Montreal Council of Women. It's an organization of 30,000 English-speaking women in Montreal, and they consider themselves the voice for Montreal. I'm on the board of directors of the Montreal Children's Library, which caters to areas in the city where no library facilities exist for these children. And don't laugh, I was filmed for a project where my face and my voice are going to be projected on the Houses of Parliament in Ottawa all summer for the next 5 years. So you're all invited to come and see my face in some of the pictures. Once a month, I meet in my home with young immigrant women from McGill University to share their concerns about life in Montreal. They consider it a warm, safe place to speak. Last month, one girl spoke about sexual abuse she was experiencing from a professor. Then another girl spoke of abuse in her own family. And gradually, each of the 5 girls found the strength and the tears to tell their own tragic story. And stories can repair broken dignity. I believe that if we just give women the tools to speak and be heard, they will all tell their stories, and they will make us stop and listen. In March, actually when I go back next month, I'm going to Ithaca College, Cornell University, to speak to a group of women for a conference that's called Finding Your Voices. In May, I speak to the University Women's Club in Montreal on the same subject. And in June, again, to a big group at the Beaconsfield Golf Club, close to where Maureen lives. There's a Chinese proverb that says, "Flowing water never goes bad." I can say to you, and very genuinely, that cancer, which was a poisonous word for me, morphed into an unexpected gift, a transfusion of light, a gift that has turned my life around more than any other event in my life. What it has done to that shy young girl from Pakistan, whom you knew in Rome, is that cancer gave me a voice. In closing, my dear Stella Viae friends, if you see yourselves in the mirror of the words and feel, like me, that your heart has been broken open 1,000 times by beauty and by blessings, then I invite you all to come and journey with me and draw your own strengths and your own reasons for living. Thank you.
Thank you. Girls, you're at the symphony. Can we just see your clothes? Can you stand up a bit?
I don't think we can. Ask Peter to turn her head.
I know, I can't see these girls.
Girls. What number, Rosario?
How are you, my elegant friends?
Very well. How are you?
Digo, no, lo que no me quiero es que me paren nadie.
You're not sure about something else.
I'm just going to show you this, the sprint.
We're photographing all the latecomers. We're photographing the latecomers.
Well, that's all right, isn't it? Once we know where it belongs. It's just chucked on somewhere, isn't it? I haven't got my glasses on. I think it should be.
In the end, my video camera will have taken the Sarasota reunion of
Charlie in your bedroom.
Exactly. Paula and Alex and Paula. Paula in her night dress, Paula in her day dress, Alex in her night dress, Alex in her day dress, Alex with toes baked.
Everybody who looks at your video, Cheryl, is going to be as dizzy as they come. She goes around going like this.
I'm going to can you please take some of me? Yes, of course. Thank you.
What do I do?
You just look through there.
It's still taking.
It's still, it's as it says, oh, she can't see. Can you see?
Yes,
You got no glasses, Alex, you can't see.
I'm fine.
Are you sure you can
Now
see?
this is Cheryl in her. Is this her night dress or her day dress? I asked myself.
Excuse me, I have already booked the bathroom and I'm going.
We will not follow Paula to the bath.
But we don't have much light in this particular.
Okay.
Photograph your little silhouette.
Let's do this. Let's come in. Yeah. Okay, come on. We're going to do a dance. We dance in a new dance from Africa via New Zealand and via Ireland.
And
And
Montreal.
Montreal.
So the first one we go up,
Okay.
and then the other one we go out,
Out.
and the other one we go this way.
Okay.
Okay, so you ready? So it's
Say hi.
na do da G, na do da sa G, na do da gombe, na do da lychee, na trotto, na do da G.
It's brilliant, but I think you should come over on this side of the road. But there's a bit of this room where there's a bit of light.
No, that's great.
You were in the dance.
If you were over there, it'd be lovely.
Oh, Paula, we're going to do it in the light. One more time.
Cheryl, you
Now
do
that
it
we know how to
yourself.
do it. Now do the G. Now do the sa G. Now do the gombe.
Gombe, na do da lychee, na trotto, na do da G. Na do da
Move the camera there.
na do da lychee, na trotto.
You're still a silhouette.
She has.
I'm still a silhouette. Why is that? I don't know.
Because we haven't got enough light in there.
Alex, that's perfect because she has already got me in Montreal being,
Oh, right. Being as really
So
stupid.
you just press the button and it'll
Which button?
the red button. There's a red
Big-
button there.
Make it a little bit flat, whatever that is. Go on, give me another note. It's too low.
Oh, yeah,
Is it recording or we see?
Yeah, what does it begin?
Early one
Yes.
morning.
No, early.
Okay, let's go. Early just morning, just as the sun was rising, I heard somebody sing in Sarasota town. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae. Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town. We've come from near, we've come from far to celebrate great friendship, to share our lives, our loves, our griefs in Sarasota town. Everybody, Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae. Why? Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town. So, no.
Our neighbours.
So, the plan that Ellen's made for us is giving us great pleasure. A program of discovery gives memories to treasure. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae.
Stella Viae gathering in Sarasota town.
Where's the next verse?
See us gather here today, bear Catherine's blessings from above. She keeps us safe beneath her wing to journey on with love. Viva Stella Viae.
Look at the new film director. Getting our profile.
Stella Viae gathering in Sarasota town.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, listen. Don't you think we should sing it tomorrow night?
What on earth are you going to wear? You will be wearing something so
I don't know what to wear.
What?
I don't know what to wear.
Want to get it all out?
Yeah, I want you to decide for me what I'm going to wear. This is going down for posterity, you know.
Let's see you get all your stuff out.
Okay.
Is that the drawer? And are we all going now? I just pressed the red button. Is it working?
Oh, you're
Yes.
videoing this?
Yeah.
Are you going to wear a sari?
What about a sari?
Yes, why not?
That's the only sari I have.
We'd want you to wear a sari.
Yeah?
Everyone would. So that's it.
Oh, this
Gorgeous.
is the sari I brought. This is.
Please, Sarah, will you wear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I have a petticoat to hold it up first.
All right.
Because if I don't have a petticoat to hold it, it'll fall down.
Okay, well that's a very important
Very important.
decision.
You have got a long black
This is okay. This is good. Okay, fine. So
I put
this,
them in with your good girl.
Is this a little pre-dinner snack you're eating?
Oh
Paula?
no, I'm not on video.
Oh, Paula, you are, my dear.
It is. It's circus animals. Trying.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
lamenting the fact that
now,
I didn't go to the miniature
You're right. Now it's
animals.
more meaningful.
I'm now
Oh,
eating them.
this becomes so meaningful.
I'm sure you'll feel a lot better after you've done that then. Okay, well this is all sorted out, so I'm going to turn off for the moment.
And you just press the button.
We have places.
No, we don't.
There are no places.
No places, sit where you want.
Maureen, except for Maureen, that Ellen wants you to sit here.
No, she said, she said it's okay.
It's all right? Okay.
She can sit anywhere anybody wants.
You sit wherever you
But
want.
you're all being photographed,
We're here
okay?
because the heating is here.
Ah.
You're on the hot seat.
Chuchurrún, what is this?
No hay lugares donde quieran. Nosotros nos sentamos aquí porque aquí está la calefacción y veníamos con frío del hall.
Bueno, 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 bueno.
Sorry.
Qué barbaridad. Bueno.
I'm sitting here. Thank you.
Your hand.
Hola. Hola.
Are you on show? Are you on video now? Is this where the video is happening?
Yes.
Oh, it's doing itself. Looking after itself.
Are you ready, Paula?
Anytime.
Debut is starting, but do we know the
Field
words?
of the camera.
How many what? Sorry.
How many feet have we got of vision?
Oh yeah. Okay, both arms.
Can you see both arms?
Yeah,
right?
till this. No,
This
because
one.
this wall. Yeah, that's better.
So,
Okay,
in other words,
perfect.
the person.
Yeah, the mirror
have to
can be
stand
seen
quite
a
close
little bit,
together.
but that's perfect. We have to stay close together. Paula, our debut is now started. Please do
If
not.
possible, you should be wearing something totally black. Oh yes, you are. Good.
Will I take off? Will I take
It's
off?
recording.
Are we all take off that? When
We're all
we
in
have
black.
ended up all in black.
With the black braces. Can I stay inside? No, you stay there. Now.
Is it on?
Paula, you have to go there.
I need to go my nose.
You can't see details. Okay.
No.
We're now ready to perform. The three graces are now ready to perform. What are we performing? Please say what
We're performing a version of Early One Morning.
And this is the one we did for the Stella Viae group.
Yes, it's-
Paula,
yes.
could you explain that please to the cameraman?
These words were created, what do you say? The
Composed.
lyrics were composed by Alex.
And with help from Cheryl.
With
With
help
help
from
from Cheryl,
Cheryl.
thank
Sorry,
you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Cheryl.
thank you.
I had nothing to do with it. I'm simply helping them.
She's keeping us in
the
tune.
note. So let us begin.
Paula, sideways. Feet out.
Don't forget. Oh, you've given us the note.
Early this morning, just as the sun was rising, I heard some voices singing in Sarasota town. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae, Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town. We've come from near, we've come from far to celebrate great friendship. To share our
It's her
lives,
writing.
our loves, our griefs in Sarasota town. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae, Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town.
Now with actions.
The plan that Ellen's made for us is giving us great pleasure. A program of discovery gives memories to treasure. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae, Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town. See us gather here today, Mary Catherine's blessings from above. She keeps us safe beneath her wing to journey on in love. Viva Stella Viae, Viva Stella Viae, Stella Viae's gathering in Sarasota town.
Can we battle please together?
Go and switch it
I hope we were in it, that's all.
I don't think it was switched on.